What up, my people? Today I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. Bring y'all on the road with me. Shoot a quick video and tell y'all my story on how did I get into the trucking game. I just thought it would be interesting, to get to know me a little bit, you know what I mean? So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Yeah, man. Just wanted to make a video, take y'all for a ride, and tell y'all how I basically started out in the trucking game. Where all this started at. So basically, I started out. It all started with my grandfather and then my father, both on both sides of my family, my mother's side and my father's side. My grandfathers, plural, dealt with trucks. All right. But my father is the one who really went further with it and had his own trucking business, right? So, my father, he drove big trucks, 18-wheelers, for freight companies and stuff like that. He wound up actually getting sick, and I think he just went all in on his own business. So he bought him a dually, he bought him a hot shot trailer, and I think he went to, because I was very young at the time, I think he went to hauling freight for like hot shot companies like Ace and United Vision, and I think they had a couple of other ones back then, right? And then he got into hauling cars, right? And that's when he really just done his own thing. Like, he had his own company. He hauled basically a lot of exotic cars for a lot of people locally in the area. And then he started venturing out across the country, right? So as a little boy growing up into a young man, I've always rode with my father, dealing with trucks, right? He would take me out of town with him, and I would just see all kind of stuff just going with him, you know what I mean? We would always hit hustles. He would go pick up the car and deliver the cars, but then he also tell them like, hey, look, I'll wash your car and detail it for extra price, right? My dad is from the Melphamine Project in New Orleans. For those who don't know, I am from the New Orleans area off the West Bank side. I grew up the first part of my life on the West Bank side, and then the second part, when I say second, meaning, once I got in my 17, 18 years old, I was, a lot of my time was in downtown New Orleans, stuff like that. But anyway, not that good. So, my father, he just had that project mentality, always making a hustle. Just always making he always wanted to make a hustle, you know what I mean? Make a couple dollars, you know what I mean? Because he come up basically, out the project, hustling dope, in the streets, right? So he always had that mentality. But, so when he got into the trucks, it was always a hustle. You see what I'm saying? So, by me riding with him all the time, I've seen all of this, okay? And when I was a kid, I got into so much trouble in school to where I would get kicked out of almost every school that I went to. I probably went to about 15 to 18, somewhere in that range, different schools growing up, right? And in full disclosure, I've never been to a high school a day in my life. I've never made it to high school, right? I don't know what the inside of a high school even looked like. So, that was 15 to 18 different schools from elementary up to where I'm from is junior high, right? So I was homeschooled a lot of my years, and I spent a lot of time with my dad in the truck. So I basically grew up in trucking, literally. I grew up in trucking. I grew up working on trucks. I grew up working on trailers. I was winning when it was time to get paid. I was winning when it was, booking loads and delivering loads and communicating with people about loads. So, doing the customer service side, doing the paperwork, running logs, not running logs, dealing with DOT, dealing with state troopers, dealing with insurance claims because rocks would hit the glass on the car because we had open deck trailers, car haulers, right? We didn't have enclosed car haulers at that time. We do now, but we didn't have them at that time, right? So I seen a lot, growing up. So, I grew up with my dad doing that. He kept buying trucks, and he would basically put his friends to work, right? Now, my dad growing up didn't, he didn't make it out of high school either. He wasn't really even too much of a good reader, but he just had that hustle. Look at this, crazy. I always got somebody crazy on the highway, man. Always doing stupid stuff. But anyway, so he didn't really have a real big time business mindset, or know-how. I'm gonna say know-how, I guess. He didn't understand credit. He didn't understand, leverage that much, but he understood how to keep it in the family, how to help his friends out. He always put his friends to work. They always needed work. Like, I grew up where my dad was, you came to the house to get your hustle on, you know what I'm saying? He had all the trucks and the cars by the house, the trailers. So when everybody wanted to make him a couple dollars, a quick hustle, they would come by our house. Our house was the house to come to, to make a hustle, you know what I mean? And he would pay people to ride with him. He would pay people to drive the trucks. He would pay people to wash the cars and do mechanic work and stuff like that. So I grew up seeing that, right? Not really understanding. And the most he ever had was 2 to 3 trucks at a time, at one time, running the business, which that's a nice business, and these were dualies, but at that time, I mean, he did good for himself and he did good for us. So I learned business early on, and my mother was a hairstylist, and she basically ran her own beauty salon. So I basically grew up under entrepreneurs, and we always just they just basically taught me, and unknowingly I just grew up around this, basically not like working for other people, but anyway. So that's how I basically started driving trucks. So with my dad, coming from the hood, he kind of wanted to do things his way, and then he got very sick. So when he got very sick, he really couldn't run the business the way that it needed to be ran and stuff like that. So when he got sick, he basically made his business. He kept trucks, but he made it kind of like a side hustle, and he slacked up a lot. And him and my mom got a divorce, and then he went and got a job, right? I really don't know exactly why, but I can imagine probably because the divorce was heavy on him. He was sick at the time, and then it just was a lot going on. That's basically kind of how he breaks it down to me. So the business wasn't there anymore. So that's when, I started all the way from my chauffeur's license. Then I got my CDL, which was a Class B. Then I got a Class A, right? But I started off in a mechanic shop for a local company called Jay's Trucking, right? and they had end dumps and dump trucks, right? So I basically was working on the trucks, changing brakes, changing tires, and I'm 100 and, at that time, I'm 140 pounds right now. I'm sorry, I'm 130 pounds right now, 134 at the heaviest. At that time, I probably was smaller than that. So you can only imagine me changing 18-wheeler tires, and especially dump truck tires. That was a real challenge. I had to get from under that real fast. But the reason why I did it is because I was so young, and I had a CDL at 19, right? And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, how you can get a CDL at 19? It's probably not possible. I had a lot of people tell me, oh, that's not possible. Well, it is possible. You can get a CDL. Well, at that time you could. I don't know what it is now. But at that time, you can get a CDL at 18, 17 or 18, right? I got mine at 18. The thing was, you couldn't, if you had you couldn't go across state line unless you had somebody else with you that was over the age of 21 with a CDL as well, all right? So everybody would tell me, man, the insurance too high, insurance too high. We basically can't bring you on, right? So, but let's back up for a second. So I bought a truck, and it was an international day cab from a guy in the neighborhood. And I spent my last on this truck. It was my last little stash. I went to jail for something stupid. Went to jail for a couple weeks, got out. And when I got out, that was basically all the money that I had left over. And the money that I had in my stash, I took all the money and I spent it on this truck. I'm like, man, I need to make me some good money, because I just got tired of people not wanting to hire me because I was so young. So I bought this truck thinking that was gonna fix everything. It didn't. And first day I went to go pick up the truck. I got it up on the highway. When I got it up on the highway, I drove about 3 miles, the motor went out. So yeah, and that was at 19 years old. Okay. So now I'm over here by J Trucking, the trucking company that I'm telling y'all about. I'm over here. I'm talking about my CDL career, right? I'm not talking about, I can go before that with, my chauffeur's license and stuff like that. But now I'm over here, they telling me, everybody's telling me I'm too young, we can't put you on insurance. Come back when you make this age, come back when you make 21, come back when you make 24, stuff like that. I didn't want to take no for an answer. So I said, well, look, let me work in the mechanic shop, and I can drive on the weekend. They said, sure. They paid me like $10 an hour, $12 an hour to work in the mechanic shop. The very next week, someone quit. They needed a driver. Guess who started driving? I did. Instantly, at 19 years old, I was making anywhere from $800 to $1,500 a week driving dump trucks. All right? And I would work at night as well. I worked sometimes 7 days a week. So I was sleeping inside of the dump truck, literally. All right? So I was basically working over the road in a dump truck locally, all right? Getting my grind on, you know what I'm saying? Getting that paper. And I was young. So I saved up my money and I started buying trucks. Fast forward, I'm going through the trials and tribulations of trucking. Had another truck. Another truck I bought. 3 weeks later, the head gasket blew, right? I got, because you gotta remember, it's going on 18 years of me being in the trucking industry. So now, I got so many stories. This can be a easy couple-hour video, right? But I don't want to make it that long. So basically, once I started going back and forth with that, I just kept trying to figure out trucking, how to make it work, because I kept on dealing with, the ups and downs with the finances. You make a lot of money, then all of a sudden you don't make the money and all this stuff. And then I found out about credit. And I came across cleaning my credit, and I started watching Patrick Bet-David's YouTube channel, back then, and he just was talking about business. So that's when I figured out, man, I need to learn business, right? Like, I know this trucking, I know these trucks, I know how to drive them, I know how to work on them, I know how to buy the good trucks, but I didn't understand how business worked. And then I started learning business, I started learning credit, I started learning LLC formation, I started learning how, accounts receivable, sales, sales not really back then. I started learning these different aspects of business, and when I started learning these different aspects of business, I made my first million, right? I got some credit. I started buying more trucks and more trucks and more trucks. And then I ran it all the way up to, I can't remember, probably had about 10 at one time or something. I can't remember. Because I would buy, sell. I would sell them to my drivers. Some of them would, I had a couple one get stolen, one the motor went out, all this stuff. So, and then my brother, he was in business with me for a little while. All these things, I would let other people lease on to me, stuff like that. And this was in my late 20s. And I made my first $1 million in a year, right? In trucking. Okay, 1.2 to be exact. And it changed my life because a lot of people, I would always hear people would tell me, like, what's going on right now in the pandemic? I mean, I'm sorry, not pandemic. Post-pandemic, where everybody's hooping and hollering about, oh my God, trucking is horrible, trucking's never gonna come back and all this stuff. Listen, I'm 36 years old. I was going through this when I was 19, 20, everybody telling me don't get in trucking. You can't get rich, you this and that. But guess what? I bought my first house off the trucking industry. I bought my first Harley off the trucking industry. I had all kind of nice cars, right? I met my wife by having my trucking business inside of a building. My office was inside of a building, and the lady that owned the building is her cousin. So that's how I met my wife, right? So a lot of great things came from the trucking industry, that it came from literally making money in the trucking industry. I've been through the Obama election, and the government shutdown, and the no more drilling on U.S. soil, all this stuff, no more fracking, all this stuff, right? I went through the pre-pandemic, the post-pandemic. Like, these markets go up and down, and they're gonna correct themselves, right? It is, that's just the way of life. That's just how it's gonna go. See what I'm saying? So, I had a lot of great times. I'm still having a lot of great times, right? I've traveled the world. I've seen a lot, right? I've been to all kind of, when I was out there in the world, and I used to do a bunch of wild stuff. Man, I done been to strip clubs all over. I done been to clubs all over. Man, my wife done traveled all over. We still travel, because I don't drive all the time. I'm doing it right now, but I don't drive all the time, right? Sometimes I'm working in the office, sometimes I'm driving. But, I remember one time, I traveled for 2 weeks on my Harley. Just traveled all the way to Colorado, just living a good life, seeing the world, all up in the mountains, stuff like that. All that came from trucking. I didn't have no other business at the time. I done a lot of different things, other things besides trucking. But everything that I just named, trucking rewarded me that. The money from trucking rewarded me all of those things, right? So I'm grateful for trucking. I'm grateful for the experiences that I've been through, the ups and the downs, right? And I'm gonna continue to press on, no matter what. I'm gonna be in trucking on some type of level, no matter what, whether it's a fleet, whether it's brokerage, whether it's dispatching, whether it's just training, or whether it's all at one time. They have so many different aspects of trucking. It's not just you have to be a truck driver or buy a truck and own a truck. You can have a trucking business and serve the trucking industry in so many different ways, right? So anyway, that's my quick story on how did I get in the trucking industry, right? So if this video was any value for you, hit the like button. If you like my other videos, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.